Okay, it's Tom Pace on the Talk of the Town, and today with our senior senator to Washington, D.C., Senator Bill Cassidy, Shreveport, and for a Republican meeting. And Senator Cassidy, how convoluted is it in Washington? Is there DACA? Is it going to happen? What about the wall? How are you feeling?
The deal can happen. President Trump has put forward a good faith position, if you will. And he said in his State of the Union speech, you don't get everything you want. He said he was willing to increase the number of kids eligible for DACA and give them a pathway to citizenship. But in return, there had to be a wall. We have to assure the American people that this stops and that we can stop the drug trafficking that's happening across unguarded portions of our border. It seemed like a deal to be made. The other side has said they don't want that. I think they want an issue, not a solution. President Trump's clearly frustrated. Somehow I think he's just trying to move them off of their, we don't want to do it because it's Trump's deal, into something which is actually good for our country. But anyway, and I'll support the president in this.
And what about some of the legislation that you're doing now? You've got some major bills, and also with school safety too, I believe.
Yeah, a couple things we're working. One, you can see the president also wants to do something about the rampant opioid crisis. He wants to give the death penalty to drug dealers. That's not before us right now, but we absolutely want to make it. If you're bringing in fentanyl, you need to be penalized more than you're being penalized now. And frankly, if it is part of a premeditated effort to kill somebody, then we should consider even stronger punishment than we have now. So totally with the president on that. As regards school safety, clearly we want our schools to be a place where kids can go and we need not fear for their safety. And so I've introduced legislation that would harden the schools so that somebody who wants to do something bad cannot enter. Also, for someone who's troubled in a school, like Nicholas Cruz was in Florida, to give a school official a place to send them if they need mental health counseling. We're trying to do other things as well to try and make sure that schools are a place that can be as safe as possible.
What about more SROs? I just want to ask that. What about more school resource officers?
Yeah, clearly the president is interested in that, and it could be a school resource officer in terms of mental health counseling, but also someone who could keep somebody from committing crimes if they arrive wanting to do so. You saw that in Maryland. A young man came, had stolen his father's pistol, wanted to hurt kids. There was an officer there who actually made it end, still tragic, but not as tragic as it could be. I think there will be also interest in that going forward.
Do you think that states should get federal help when it comes to more security with the schools and whatnot?
Yeah, so the last bill we had actually gives more dollars for the state and school and local school districts to implement these measures that would make schools safer. So that help is on its way.
On the omnibus, you voted against it. Could you tell us why you voted against it, but like since Trump signed it, how do you feel about it?
Yeah. So there clearly were things there that were important. There's more funding for the defense, the Department of Defense, for example. There's a recognition that over the last 4 or 5 years, the military has taken the biggest hit in terms of balancing the budget. On the other hand, there was a lot of stuff in there that did not have to be there. The bill spent more than the agencies asked for. It spent more than President Obama had asked for on certain departments. Now we have to respect our debt and deficit. We have to respect the taxpayer. And I think that overall, this bill did not respect our debt and deficit, did not respect the taxpayer. That's why I voted no. I think President Trump had the same feelings about it. He felt like he had to sign it, but he said he would not sign a bill like this again.
And so that's going to only last, what, 6 months?
No, the budget deal is actually for a year and a half, and there's a way to carry some of this money forward. So in fairness, it's for more than 6 months. But still, it spent $1.3 trillion. We had less than 1 day to read it. It's a 2,000-page bill. I'm not going to vote yes on something which is 2,000 pages long, spends $1.3 trillion, and I have less than 1 day to review it.
What do you think about Barksdale Air Force Base, and are we still one of the crown jewels in the Department of Defense?
Absolutely. I spoke with a general in the Army, and he said that we're transitioning away from sort of the Afghanistan sort of guerrilla warfare scenarios back to more traditional warfare. That's where the B-52s will play a role. People speak of our threats now being Russia, maybe China, hopefully not, but maybe. Well, clearly that is a setting in which the B-52s as part of our armamentarium will kind of resume importance. Excuse me. And so as our military prepares for that, B-52s will be a major portion of that effort.
And you're looking down the road. What is the one thing you want to see occur, say, by the end of this year? What is the one thing you think and by the way, will the Republicans do well in the midterms?
One thing I want to see is that family sitting at home who struggled for the last 8 years has a better living. And I think we're starting to see that progress. The employment's for some groups at record highs. For veterans, it is almost at a record high. Folks who haven't worked for the last 4 or 5 years are returning to the workforce. Wages are starting to grow. If we see more of that, that's what I want to see. And if Republicans do well in the midterms, it'll be because we do see more of that. I want that family to do well, by the way, not because I want Republicans to do well, because I want that family to do well. But again, if that family does well, they may look around and say, we're doing better over the last 2 years than we did the previous 8. I need to vote Republican.
How big a threat is China and Russia to the United States?
China and Russia are threats, but we have the capability to address those threats. But we have to be mindful of them and do what is necessary. I think President Trump is committed to doing what is necessary.
Well, and final thing, the tariffs. When he imposed heavy-handed tariffs on those countries, and now it's getting into a bidding war, I guess, with China and others, where is that going to land?
China needs us more than we need China. We are the largest export market for China. We hardly export anything to China. So if it becomes a bidding war, they lose $500 billion in exports. We don't lose that much. So I think the president's got the stronger hand here. I hope it doesn't happen. It clearly will negatively affect our agricultural industry and our energy industry. But again, China needs us more than we need China.
Senator.